What is going on, guys? It's been some time since I made this video, or any videos for that matter. It's been almost a week. Apologize for that. Work's been pretty crazy. Just been looped into a lot of really important stuff, which I feel like an imposter because I have no idea what I'm doing. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Check this out, right? So, huge shout out to Jonathan Miras, my friend, and Amit for posting this. And the thing is, basically what this is Palantir signing or announcing that they are partnering with Accenture so that Accenture can have some access to their platforms and build some technology and some really cool stuff for their clients. But this kind of stuff is actually really crucial, right? For these important reasons. I'll kind of list it out right here, but there's a lot of it that I really can't say just because it's one of those huge companies that has a long prolonging effect down the road, more so than just now. This is big. It's one of the biggest, I think, contracts and partnerships I'm really excited about because, see, companies don't really want to dig and like put a whole bunch of money into software right away. They want to see some sort of trial and error process, or they want to see someone else, like a big player or someone, take a shot at it first. Accenture is a little bit of one of those big players, just because, and I'll get into the reasons why, but one of the biggest things we're looking for from this piece of news is that through Accenture might actually serve as like a proxy for some of these companies who were interested in Palantir as, to onboard Palantir, but they can use Accenture as a proxy to say, okay, what kind of stuff can Accenture do for us using this like the company software that, once they realize that it's possibly working for them, they'll probably sign up. So Accenture will be kind of used as like a medium to then, gauge as to how Palantir can actually help these companies provide, any kind of value altogether moving forward. But anyway, let me talk about Accenture for a second. I think for those of you who don't know, who are not in the IT space or whatever, you might not know Accenture, but Accenture is a behemoth of a company. It is huge. They're kind of honestly a glorified staffing agency, to be honest with you. But the real truth of it is they work on huge lines of businesses, right? And they work on like multiple different sectors. They have like healthcare, they have pharma, they have media, they have banking, pretty much everywhere. Just in the US, they have like pretty much clients in every sector that you can possibly think of. So to think that if any of these clients had any sort of data problem, Accenture has that, ability in there. They have that, the tool belt from which they can pull out Palantir Foundry or whatever the case is really good to know. Is really bullish indicators for Palantir investors and anyone who's interested in, putting money into it. Not financial advice. I'm just saying it's a step in the right direction. And they work on such big projects. And the thing is, they actually constantly compete with other staffing and other consultant companies like Deloitte and Tech Systems and all these other people. They compete with them for sure. But the thing is, a lot of them actually win the same kind of contracts. So this might just be the first domino to fall from the consulting side of things. Okay. The one thing I will mention though is Accenture and all these other consulting companies. You got to keep in mind. It's very important to understand this. Okay, let me explain this to you. Apart from really major consultants, a lot of these kind of professionals that get onboarded into organizations, they tend to work on very narrow sort of lines of businesses. Okay, so this is what I responded to this tweet as well. But what I'm trying to say is, this most likely, like a good majority, I'd say about 70% of it is going to go towards very thin lines of businesses. But because Accenture works on so many businesses, like they have so many clients from different sectors and all that stuff we just talked about, they're going to be able to solve all sorts of problems. Because the Palantir is on Accenture's side, they will internally be able to say, oh, damn, like this client is in banking and we solve this problem, and it actually solves very well for Disney, for example, or this one issue at, like GlaxoSmithKline or whatever, some sort of pharma company actually the solution lends well to an aerospace company or whatever the case is, right? So internally in Accenture, they're almost like a test bed or like a proving ground for Palantir Foundry for a broader range of companies, although they will be working on very thin lines of businesses. So like organizations don't really trust consultants, to be honest, and it's a lot of it is for a good reason. Mainly because you're paying them like huge amounts of money to really make sure that one or two things are very, very, streamlined. Okay. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time. So the use case that you're going to have, like for each sort of implementation in this case, is not going to be like, fix everything for us, please save me. It's going to be more like, hey, we have this one problem in our data pipelines that we need to solve, and it's causing this one issue down the road. please, can you help us, Accenture? Accenture will say, yeah, no problem. We have some new solutions that we want to try to employ here. Are you okay with that? They'll sign some contracts. And then boom, all of a sudden on Accenture side, they'll use Palantir to actually solve the data problems for whatever client that they have. Now, there's a lot of legalities here, actually. A lot of times the full data set doesn't actually go over to companies like Accenture, or the consultants don't have access to it. But the contextual importance of it is there. So they will pass to them the stuff that they actually need to be solved. So there is like a little bit of due diligence to be done there. But when it comes down to it, when it all boils down, they will eventually hand them over majority of like the data that's necessary there. Another big important part here is that when Accenture does start solving these problems, they'll quickly start to realize actually that they can't do this by themselves, or there's usually what's called a handoff period when consultants are in order, because everything's a contract, like a 6 month to a 1 year contract, and they have to re-sign every whatever 6 months to 1 year, or they'll have to extend their resources from Accenture or whatever these staffing companies are, right? The idea is that once this project has taken a sort of like, once it's hit a certain part of the curve, they will have to actually onboard some of the resources from the organization itself. So let me give you an example. Like, what if Accenture is working with Warner Brothers, which is one of their clients, by the way, right? Eventually, down the road, once the Accenture consultants and Accenture professionals are actually gone through the platform and actually have solved some small level of problems, they actually have to onboard somebody from, for example, Warner Brothers or whoever their clients are, to be on the platform. You guys see what I'm saying? So in a way, that's what I mean by the companies actually using Accenture as a proxy. So they'll onboard their clients onto Accenture's version of whatever Foundry, whatever the case is. So this is partly because of the handover period. It'll almost be like having a Palantir salesperson in the room a little bit. Now, not all companies will do this because, again, there are some legalities involved here, but some companies that are pretty open with their data or are in need of, for example, companies that have vast sets of data and they kind of just need the results, they'll sort of like come together with some kind of a contract to say, okay, yeah, you know what, we'll eventually start using whatever you're using, but as a third party. So we, as the organization, will be the third party, and you guys, Accenture, will hold the main sort of like, object sort of principles and stuff and pass them down. So in a way, they'll get onboarded into the platform. They'll get all the RBAC, which is role-based access control. So whoever needs to use it, they will actually have decent enough permissions. Of course, not everything, but enough permissions to see where the results actually lie and sort of take it from there. So guys, this is really big news. I think I had to make a video on this. I'm going to go back to work after this, but the idea, I wanted to make sure that people understood. And we did know this stuff from before, right? Accenture, we knew that this was a partnership that Palantir was working on from some time. But the fact that they actually announced this and they made it official from their Twitter channel or Twitter account is actually big news. So take that for what it is. I would suggest you go take a look at all the clients that Accenture actually helps. And again, it's not going to apply to all of them. It's probably not going to apply to most of them. Maybe it's just a small fraction of it. But just take a look. You can sort of devise which ones most likely will take a use case in this. Now, I do want to talk about some of the negative aspects of this. And yes, there is some negatives, okay? So I want to be as objective as possible. I want to give it to you guys the real deal, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. Don't get upset. There are some people, especially companies like Accenture, some of these big staffing and consulting companies, not all the consultants are good, okay? For instance, I've gotten placed in a lot of places where I only know parts of it and I have to learn the rest of the job. And some folks don't even do that. They don't even take their initiative to do that. They kind of just sit there and collect a paycheck for the most part. A nice paycheck, but they still collect it. So in a way, this could potentially reflect badly on Palantir as well, because if they're like, hey, look, Accenture is using Palantir, why don't we try it out with these guys, right? They sign a small 6 month or 1 year contract. And at the end of that contract, they might not extend. And they might say, well, if these guys can't do anything with Palantir, then why the hell should we do it, right? And of course, Accenture is not going to disclose the fact that some of their people are just garbage, right? It has the potential to have some repercussions on sort of like how Palantir is viewed in the professional community. So just keep that in mind. The consultants aren't always viewed in a good light. I'm just telling you right now. I'm telling you from personal experience. There's a lot of like hate towards them. Mainly, most of it is not really justified, but some of it is. There are many times that consultants actually come in and make the problem much worse. So you have to consider this as a possibility. So keep that in mind. But that's it for me. I hope to make some more videos this week if I have more time. But until then, I will catch you guys on the next one. You guys have a nice day. Peace.